The land that Spendthrift Farm exists on today was originally purchased by its founder, Leslie Combs, in 1937. He purchased 127 acres from his great-grandfather, Daniel Swigert. Daniel Swigert was a remarkable guy. When he was 24, the first land that he purchased in Kentucky was along the Kentucky River and was called Buffalo Trace. Swigert later went on to manage Woodburn Farm and eventually owned and operated Elmendorf Farm. While he was there, he purchased a yearling named Spendthrift, hence where Spendthrift Farm got its name. Leslie named the farm in honor of his great-grandfather's horse. Spendthrift was an interesting horse. He was the great-grandsire of Man o' War. Upon acquiring the farm, Leslie Combs immediately set out to stand stallions, and that's really Spendthrift's history. That's what Leslie Combs became known for, including authentic. 10 Kentucky Derby winners have stood at Spendthrift Farm, and 2 Triple Crown winners in Affirmed and Seattle Slew. Leslie was really an innovator in the standing of stallions, and he really brought sort of the modern syndication model to America, and the sort of the 32 or 40 share syndicate was something that he established, particularly in the case of Nashua. Nashua was the first horse syndicated for over $1 million. The U-barn here at Spendthrift was actually built because Lloyd's of London would not underwrite the insurance policy on Nashua because the existing barn was wood and did not have any fire protection in it. So the U-barn was built with no wood whatsoever, and that satisfied Lloyd's of London and got Nashua covered by the insurance company. The Combses decided to commemorate Nashua and Clem Brooks, his longtime groom, with a statue, which is the centerpiece of our stallion complex. A couple little known things about that. Elizabeth Taylor's daughter, Liza Todd, was the sculptor. And she did an interesting little thing that if you come here to Spendthrift, you'll see. She put a horseshoe in Clem Brooks's right-hand hip pocket. This was because she had heard the story that Clem would borrow horseshoes, used horseshoes from the blacksmith. And when the tourists would come in town, he would say, now, Nashua wore this when he won the Preakness or the Belmont, or Seattle Slew wore this when he won the Kentucky Derby. And Clem was always armed with a horseshoe that may or may not have actually been on that stallion to sell to the tourists. During the 80s, Spendthrift eventually became publicly traded. Is something that not everybody knows. This was a failed experiment and really sort of led to, in large part, to the demise of Spendthrift. After the original Spendthrift went under in the late 80s, there were a number of different ownerships that came in here and either owned or leased the property here, and almost always operating under the name of Spendthrift. In 2004, Wayne Hughes, a current owner, bought Spendthrift and really bought it originally so that his kids and grandkids would have a place in the country to come visit. And of course, he was a well-established breeder and owner at the time, and so it just made sense for him to have his own property. I think the idea of the stallion complex and the stallion barn really is something that evolved over time. You know, one of the remarkable similarities to Leslie Combs and all of his innovation is what Mr. Hughes has done here over the years, and some of the innovative sales and marketing techniques that he's established and have really become commonplace in the industry. Today we stand 24 stallions. We have the largest roster in North America. We stand the now 2-time leading sire Into Mischief, Malibu Moon, who's a Kentucky Derby winning sire. So really just a really exciting roster, and it's been exciting to try to build on that tradition that Leslie Combs started so many years ago. One of the most famous visitors here at Spendthrift was Queen Elizabeth, who came here in 1984 to see Seattle Slew. She would have also seen the likes of Affirmed and Raise a Native and many other great horses. Later, Joe DiMaggio was a visitor, Fred Astaire. George Bush's first visit out of office was to Wayne Hughes here at Spendthrift Farm, and we hosted him on the farm, and that was an exciting time for us. Obviously, there's a wonderful tradition of breeding horses here in the Bluegrass. Spendthrift historically is one of the names that really sits at the top of the history of the famous iconic farms of Central Kentucky, and it's been an absolute honor for us to be here and to try to continue that tradition that was really started way back before the Civil War and continued right up through 2021. It's a remarkable place. I know Wayne Hughes said early on that he had an appreciation for the history when he bought the farm, but nowhere near the appreciation that he was able to develop later on through the comments and the interaction with many of the breeders here in town. It's really a remarkable place, and it's meant so much to all of us.